If your credit score is low, you're probably not paying your bills right. In this video, I will show you exactly how you should pay your bills to increase your credit score. In fact, everything that I'm going to share with you has helped me maintain a credit score over 800 for years, and it has helped countless of others. If you stick to the very end, I'll give you another strategy even if you're having trouble keeping up with your bills. Before we dive in, the strategy to pay off your credit cards and loans are different, so let's first go over credit cards. The key to paying off your credit card bill the right way to have the maximum effect on your credit score is to know your way around a credit card statement. So here's a real life example of one of my Chase credit cards. Right now, I have a new balance of $457.11. The minimum payment would be $35, and I would have to make the minimum payment by $120. Now, let's go over the account summary, which is the meat of the credit card statement. Here are the most important parts that you need to know. First is the previous balance. If you have a rolling balance or if you did not pay your credit card bill, it will show up here. So for this particular statement, I have a little bit over $400 in purchases. If you've done any cash advances, balance transfers, it will show here. Also, if you had a rolling balance, it will also display here and how much interest was charged as well. So in total, my new balance is $457.11. Now here's the most important part of any credit card statement. These dates right here are your opening and closing dates. Some credit card statements label this a little bit differently. Some may just show you a statement due date, but they all roughly mean the same thing. These dates are important because they show your billing cycle. This is the period that would account for anything that you bought or paid off. Billing cycles typically last between 28 to 31 days, but the most important date to know is when the statement closes. So for this example, it closes on December 23rd, meaning that any balances that are left on this day, it gets reported to the credit bureaus. If you are new to credit or not familiar, your credit scores are determined by TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. These credit bureaus have all different algorithms that determine your credit score. Now, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of different types of credit bureaus, but these are the three credit bureaus that are the most important ones that you need to pay attention to. They're the ones that keep track of your credit history and pretty much how you handle your debt. So let's go back to our statement. With this credit card, I have a credit limit of $18,900. So with a $457 balance, this means that I have roughly around a 2.4% credit utilization. If you wonder how I got this number, I simply just have my new balance divided by my credit limit and times it by 100. Okay, so you don't have to be mathing this stuff all the time, I swear. This is just to show you how I got this number. So ideally, you would want to keep your credit utilization under 10%. Now, credit utilization falls under the amounts owed portion of your credit score, which is 30% of your overall score. So if you have a large balance and a smaller credit limit, this would result in a higher credit utilization. The reason on why this is bad is that when your balance gets reported to the credit bureaus, they know all of your account details. This will report that you have a higher credit utilization. The higher your credit utilization is, the riskier that you will look to lenders. As a result, your credit score will go down. So the best time to actually pay off your credit card bill is by paying 2 to 3 days before the statement closing date. The reason being is that the closing date may fall on the weekend and your payment may not be accounted for. So if you were to look at my statement, the ideal time to pay off any balance is December 20th. This way, I would show that I would have a zero balance or a much lower balance when this information gets reported to the credit bureaus. Now, if you're not able to pay off your credit card balances in full prior to the statement closing date, stick around later in the video because I'll show you how you can tackle debt even if you have no cash flow or if you're struggling to pay down your credit cards. Now, once you pay down that balance a few days before the closing date, you do not want to use that credit card until that cycle ends. So in this case, I would not want to start spending until December 24th. I know that this credit card statement looks like the opposite of what I'm telling you to do, but I needed an example for this video, hence I needed to add a balance for this card so I could break it down for you. So what I should have done was to pay off $457 on December 20th. Once I received the credit card statement, this would have shown a zero balance with a zero minimum payment due. So the TLDW version is to simply pay as much as you possibly can a few days prior to the statement closing date. Okay, you might be thinking like, this is great if I have one credit card, but what if I have multiple? So there are a few ways that you can actually do this. You can keep track of all your credit card due dates on a spreadsheet and meticulously know when to pay off which credit card to keep the lowest utilization. For me, I don't like this way. The easier way is by setting up automatic payments by paying off the balance prior to the statement closing date. Not all credit cards issuer will allow you to do this, but if they do, this is something to take advantage of since it's automatically taken care of. Of course, this would only make sense if you're able to cover the bill no matter what the amount is. But there's an easier way than this, which is by contacting your credit card companies and shifting the statement due dates to the same date on all of your credit cards. Now, this may take some time depending on how many credit cards that you have, but if you know the exact date of when your credit card statement closes on all of your cards, This will make your credit card management so much more simpler. However, if you're not able to pay your balance in full a few days before the statement closing date, then this is a strategy that you can use to get out of credit card debt. So let me give you a real life example so you can follow along. Let's just say that you have Jeff. He earns $5,000 a month, but his expenses are also $5,000, leaving no cash flow. He has a credit card that's maxed out with a $10,000 balance and a monthly payment of around $500. The majority of his expenses goes to rent, which is around $2,000. The rest, which includes utilities, phone bills, groceries, gas, and insurances, he's charging to his credit card. Our goal is to utilize his credit card to get him out of debt. Now, most people would think to take care of everything first, then think about credit card debt last. But we're gonna do the complete opposite. As soon as Jeff gets paid, once he gets that $5,000 and it hits his bank account, minus $2,000 that needs to go to rent, this goes straight to the credit card. By doing this lowers his credit card balance right away, positively influence both his interest costs and his credit score. Reducing credit card balances is the quickest way to lift credit scores. By using his credit card for necessary expenses like groceries and gas, he manages his expenses while simultaneously reducing his credit card debt. The best part is that his monthly $500 credit card payment is effectively canceled out. Now, his actual out-of-pocket expenses amount to only $2,500, as the $500 is absorbed by his income transfer. So let's run the math. Initially, Jeff's credit card balance falls to $9,500. By next month, using this method, his balance decreased to $6,500. This process continues monthly, steadily reducing his balance. By the fourth month, his balance is $8,500, which drops down to $5,500 after his income transfer, then raises up to $8,000 after expenses. By the fifth month, his balance is around $7,500. This leaves Jeff with a $2,500 cushion on his credit card. So this can be served as an emergency fund. This strategy reduces debt while building a rainy day fund in case of anything happens. So in total, it would take Jeff around 20 months, 5 months that's already passed, plus the 15 months that are remaining to completely pay off his credit card debt using this strategy. In this example, I try to make it as easy as possible to follow since we only focus on how much he owes, which is the principal, but we haven't talked about the interest. Since we haven't included these daily fees in our calculations, this plan may be a little bit longer, but even with those extra fees, the plan for Jeff is still a good one because it will help reduce what he owes and can improve his credit score. Now let's move on to paying off loans, because paying off loans is a little bit different compared to credit cards. Because with loans, you know exactly how much you need to pay every single month and for how long. This is very different from a revolving line of credit, such as a credit card. Credit cards tend to be higher risk because your payments and balances fluctuate. So paying off a loan can either positively or negatively impact your credit score in the short term, but it really comes down to your personal credit profile, such as mix of account types, account balances, and some other factors. But what is commonly seen when you pay off a loan is that you tend to see a drop in your credit score. Unlike a credit card or any other revolving line of credit, that account remains open even if you don't put balances on it for months ahead. Now, if you have the financial means to pay off your loan early, that's freaking awesome because the majority of people don't have the discipline or the ability to. But let me go over a great strategy that you can use to maximize interest savings and build credit at the same time. The biggest portion of your credit score is the payment history and the amounts owed. This accounts for 65% of your overall score. So this is where your main focus should be. The longer that you have an excellent payment history and the lower balance that you have on open accounts, the better your score will be. So the strategy in a nutshell is that once we have the ability to pay off your loan early, we would want to pay off as much as we possibly can, meanwhile keeping a small enough balance to keep the account open as long as possible. So let's just say that you have a $5,000 loan and you have the ability to pay it off today. Rather than paying $5,000 off right now, I would just pay 91% of the balance and just leave the remaining balance there till near the end of the term. This would translate to $4,550 and the remaining balance would be $450. Depending on the loan that you have, since you paid that much money upfront, your next due date may be months or years down the road. Or sometimes the lender may still require you to pay something every single month, but the monthly payment should be much smaller compared to what you're regularly paying. Or sometimes the lender may still require you to pay something every single month, but the monthly payment should be a much smaller amount compared to what you're regularly paying. So the main goal with the strategy is to pay off as much as you can, but keep the balance high enough so the lender doesn't force you to pay it off early, or the monthly payments don't make you pay it off sooner than later. This way, you can benefit from the long payment history, plus reduce the interest that you would have to pay. Again, this really just depends on the type of loan that you have and the financial means. So regarding the example, it doesn't have to be 91%, but anything more than 50% is ideal. And with some loans, there's really no way to avoid the interest charge, but you can still benefit from paying the majority of the loan off early while making the minimum payment and having a longer payment history. Now, I want to turn it over to you. What payment strategies are you going to try today? Let me know in the comments. I'll see you guys in my next videos.